This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Adam Lang, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Adam Lang.
This is our weekend show, which is all about the two of us nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and our favourite story. Listeners would, I hope by now, realise that Michael Thompson is not here at the moment. He's on holidays, and so I'm running the gauntlet against Sean. So, to help decide the winner in the different categories we've got today, I'm very pleased to welcome back to Fear and Greed the wonderful Tim Burrowes from Unmade. Tim, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much for the welcome, Adam. I do feel I feel like I'm in a class below the two of you, though. Having listened to last week's weekend edition, where I discovered that of the three of us, two of us have been members of the Chairman's Lounge of Qantas, and I am not one of them. So I'm already feeling inadequate. So I kind of I'll definitely be playing the role of the man of the people in the absence of Michael.
Do you know what I find hard about having a guest judge, Tim? It's the fact that I just don't feel quite as at ease to abuse you. Like when Adam's the judge, no problems. It's open season. And Tim, I think you are a lovely man and have thought that for many years. So everything I say in the next 20 minutes, I apologise for, but it is open season on you.
Well, absolutely. And I must admit, I've been having a little think about, obviously it'll be very much based on Adam's scoring system, although I do kind of picture, as you can see, I've got this crappy old biro in my hand and literally the back of an envelope for my scoring. Whereas I kind of picture when Adam's doing it, he's kind of doing it with maybe a fountain pen or a quill on parchment. So I think I'm the oldie Adam Lang for these things. But I think I will have one slight twist on his scoring though, which is there might just be a bonus point available for best sledge.
Oh, I like it.
Okay.
I like it, especially when I'm up against such a nice person like Adam who doesn't sledge.
Yeah, that's not my strong suit.
No. Let's jump into it, though.
Sean, over to you. Let's kick it off.
Biggest story, Tim. We've done a bit of colluding, all very legally, and decided the biggest yarn of the week is the US election. You can't go past that. So what we decided was that each of us has to pick out what we thought was the biggest part of the biggest story and go with that. So the US election, biggest story, we are picking it apart a little bit. Biggest story for me. What the hell is going on with we the people? We the people, of course, that's the first three words of the Constitution of the United States of America, created in 1787, ratified in 1788. It affirms that the government of the country exists to serve the citizens. Government is for the citizens. So Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, just like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris now, they serve the people. Who knew? I always thought Americans were a touch mad, but given how powerful the economy is, the incredible technology and innovation coming out of that country, the prowess of its arts and sporting spheres, I was always happy to forgive failings. Things have changed, as we saw this week. According to the New York Times, the number one issue from exit polling in the election was belief in democracy. Yet Donald Trump, who is by far the least democratic candidate, won. We the people. Number two issue, the economy. They're voting on the economy. The US economy is phenomenally strong. I mean, not in terms of its growth rate, though it is at one of the fastest growing major economies in the world, just its resilience and its ability to not go into recession. We have falling rates. We have falling inflation. The share market is at record levels. The Democrats actually run the economy at the moment. I don't know whether people remembered that, but it seemed to work against Kamala Harris. Number three was immigration. Third issue, immigration. Yet the US was totally built on immigration. It is a great nation because of immigration. Number four issue, women's rights and abortion. Too hard to get my head around that one. You know, the US is debating stuff that other nations, well, we take for granted, even if some of us don't always act that way. It is just a fundamental right. So this whole we the people thing has been scratched. Trump won white male voters. He also won more black and Hispanic voters than previously. And the Women for Trump movement is real. The US election changes the whole landscape of American politics. An incredible comeback against the odds. against all the star power of the Taylor Swifts of the world. I just hope Donald Trump's read the Constitution, because it should actually be about we the people, but I don't know whether it is. I was on a rant there. Normally Michael would have interrupted me and just said, "Shut up, Sean. Get on with it." But I'm fired up.
I'm just relieved there wasn't a number 5.
Exactly.
All right, over to me. Tim, for me, the biggest business element of the US election result is the economic aftershock that will come from Donald Trump's trade and tariff policies. Now, we are talking about significant numbers here. Tariffs could be as high as 60% for China and 20% for Australian products. Trump's proposed trade changes are not just about protecting American jobs. They could actually upend global trade dynamics and directly impact Australia's exports and imports. In the United States, as the biggest economy in the world, they hold the single most powerful influence on global trade and policy. So when the US changes direction, the whole world will feel the effects. For Australia, which obviously heavily relies on exports like iron ore, coal, green energy, commodities and agricultural products, any shifts in US trade policy will create ripple effects, higher tariffs and...
Now, hold on. Adam, I'm in protest. Tim, I got to protest Adam right up front, right?
This better be a good sledge.
Yeah, it is. Are we talking about what happened this week, or are we talking about what maybe, perhaps could happen in the future? What are the rules of this game here? Because, Adam, you're talking about stuff that might happen. And let's face it, Donald Trump said a lot of stuff that never actually comes to fruition. Within 24 hours of being elected, he's going to stop the Middle East and the Ukrainian war. I don't think they're ended yet at the moment.
Right, quick judge's ruling. I think there's been plenty said about tariffs that suggests it's on the agenda. Adam, please continue.
Damn it.
Thank you, fair judge. You're also extremely handsome. Now, back to those higher tariffs and trade barriers. Would it make our entire industries that could potentially lead to job losses and squeezing profit margins? And then there's our import sector. USA produced consumer goods, technology products, cars could see heavily rising costs, and that would hit Australian consumers directly. Now, to Sean, perhaps your point, let's not overlook the volatility of Trump's decision-making. Who knows actually what he'll do next? That unpredictability leaves Australian businesses in a bind and adding another layer of risk across multiple industries. It's not just an American story. It will ripple across borders and directly impact Australia's economy and perhaps all of our hip pockets. Tim.
Interesting. So Sean has managed to pick a single topic and then turn it into an omnibus.
Yeah.
And as you
skill.
might know, I don't always love omnibuses.
Oh, no, it's a skill, Tim.
Or would it be omnibi? I'm not sure what the plural of
Omnibuses. Omnibi. Yeah, omnibi. I like that.
Of omnibuses. And I got slightly nervous to begin with Sean's, where we sort of started talking about democracy, and I started thinking, well, is this a business podcast or a social policy?
What's more fundamental
podcast?
To business than democracy? Come on, we can't have.
Well, then you turn to economy, which is where obviously I was hoping you would go, and that was very well argued.
We're back on safe ground there.
Back on safe ground. I must admit though, it does feel to me that the big story is going to be tariffs, and there's been so much said about how Donald Trump seems to be even more obsessed with them than last time. So I am going to narrowly give round 1 to Adam.
Ooh, a narrow victory.
Absolutely appalling. Go on. Let's go.
You've got to do better on your sledging than that if you want the bonus point, Sean.
Oh, well, to be honest, I was sledging Adam in the middle of his about what a load of garbage he's talking about. I didn't realise I was supposed to sledge you. Okay, I'll get into that now.
Shall I go first for the most remarkable story of the week, Sean?
Please do.
Alrighty, Tim. My most remarkable story this week is the Reserve Bank of Australia's decision to keep the cash rate on hold at 4.35%. Yes. Doing nothing.
Come on. Nothing happened. Sorry, the sledge is supposed to be
my point,
Tim, not Adam. Yeah.
To my point, Sean. Yes, doing nothing is a massive statement of doing something. The RBA has one big weapon to keep inflation between 2% and 3% and keep unemployment down, and that's the cash rate. also known to us as the price of debt or interest rates. The recent September quarter inflation numbers show inflationary pressures do persist. We currently have the highest interest rates in 12 years, but with a trimmed mean inflation rate of 3.5%, we're still sitting above the RBA's target range. The fight against inflation is far from over. Now, unemployment is in a historically low range at 4.1%, and there's still pretty healthy job creation. So the RBA's decision to maintain this restrictive setting highlights the delicate balance it's trying to achieve, pushing inflation down while avoiding a hard landing for the economy. For Australians, our economic belts will have to stay tight as we head into this vital festive season, with consumer spending likely to be more restrained this Christmas, into the summer holidays and potentially into 2025. The Reserve Bank's cautious stance underscores its commitment to getting inflation under control, even if that means a slower, more gradual path back to growth. And that delicate balancing act makes the RBA's cash rate decision the most remarkable story of the week. Sean.
Nothing happened. So what was big this week?
He's going well on the sledging so far.
The RBA sat on its ass and did nothing.
I don't know if it's got quality, but it's got quantity.
The most remarkable story by a country mile this week is the big four banks. I have absolutely no idea how they do it, but they are powerhouses. We had 3 reporting this week. And despite the naysayers, the share prices of the banks are at multi-year or record highs. Commonwealth Bank this week hit a new record high of $145.58. It's up 45% over the past year. In terms of market capitalisation, it's worth almost $30 billion more than BHP. It is 5 times bigger than Telstra. It is a juggernaut. The other 3 big banks reported this week. Westpac released its full-year earnings to the end of September. They show a 3% drop in profit to $7 billion, but the all-important net interest margin, essentially the difference between what the bank pays on deposits, what it receives on loans, it rose an impressive 8 basis points. Westpac share price is up more than 50% over the past year. National Australia Bank also reported its profit came in about 8% lower on expectations. Its share price is up 35% over the past year. ANZ came out yesterday, 8% drop in its net profit, $6.5 billion. Mind you, its share price is up more than 20% for the year. Can they keep going? The consensus is no. But that's pretty much been the view ever since Commonwealth Bank was about $110 a share. It's now, $145 a share. Like Americans' love for Donald Trump, Australians' love for the banks is just a bit of a mystery, but it is remarkable. Tim?
Well, interestingly, for both of you made small unforced errors there. Adam, this was unfair. I decided there's also going to be
sledging by the judge.
Well, I decided there was also going to be a secret minus point as well, and it was going to be 1 mark off for whoever was first to mention the cash rate this week.
It is boring. It is boring, Tim. What you've just conceded, it's really dull.
It was very well argued, considering we were talking about the decision to do nothing. But similarly, Sean, I'm really surprised in the open goal that you missed, which is one of the most significant things to me as someone who writes about media, was Combank's announcement they were launching a retail media network. Which is massive for the media world, is a new revenue stream for them. So I think you could have easily taken this round home, Sean, if only you'd mentioned that. But as it was,
Tim,
you narrowly took home that round.
Oh,
well, you can disagree with me if you like, but I'm still giving you the round, but just not by a lot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, Sean, do protest. Excellent move.
No,
you can withdraw the protest if you like.
No. The truth of this is, like last night, Adam and I were discussing the stories, and we did have the Commonwealth Bank, what's it called? Combank, not Combank Media. I can't remember what it's called, but it's we were discussing it. It's saying one of us have to do this for Tim, don't we? And to be honest, we left it out there as as a sleeper story. And I did my sleeper story before Adam, and Adam didn't pick it up. And so what I've just realised is that yes, a huge own goal, because if I'd thrown that in, I would have trounced him.
You could have romped it in.
Yes, a missed opportunity, but still a narrow victory. So I make it 1 round each at this stage.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
neck
I
and
like
neck.
that.
Well, let's go to a break and we'll be back shortly for the final finish. Welcome back to the weekend edition. Sean, why don't you kick us off with your nomination for Sleeper Story of the Week?
Yes, I will. The story itself isn't exactly a sleeper, but the response.
Oh, good start.
Yeah. Now, what, Adam? Adam.
Well, Tim was bonusing sledge points. I had to have a crack.
Oh, welcome to first grade Adam Lang. A sledge.
Yeah, it seems to have taken you completely off course, John.
Absolutely. Well, anyway,
It's very unfamiliar ground for me too.
Oh, wow. Adam, I'm so proud of you. Starting with the story. The managing director and founder of Mineral Resources, Chris Ellison, will step down within 18 months. We found that out this week after the board of the miner found he used company resources for his personal benefit and had not acted with integrity. He allegedly benefited through an offshore tax scheme. He was caught. He repaid the ATO. He didn't actually tell the board about all that, not for a couple of years anyway. There are other bits and pieces that came out of the board inquiry, like he used staffers to look after his boat, personal finances. There was from some cheap rent for a family member. The bit which I can't fathom this week is that he still has 18 months before he leaves the business, notwithstanding those findings. Remember that phrase? He didn't act with integrity, used company resources for his personal benefit. This is what the board's saying. And then they're saying, look, you can hang around for another 18 months though. Now, the sleeper bit here.
Oh, I was hoping there would be one.
Yeah, no, there's a sleeper bit here, Tim. Wake up, come on. Focus. Tim, why is it that your eyes are wandering? Come on, keep with me.
He's got one head resting on his hand,
Yeah.
When's he going to get to the point?
The sleeper bit. The sleeper bit. This is important. We didn't hear much about it, but it happened. Australia's sovereign wealth fund, the Future Fund, took a few days. In fact, this story's been running for a few weeks, but only late this week, it piped up. It said, well, we actually have an $88 million stake in Mineral Resources. We're just going to have a bit of a look at what happened. And it went and asked the board for more information from the company. It's requested to engage with the company board. So if you're a major shareholder, you would tend to talk to the CEO, not the board. The Future Fund actually wants to talk to the board. That's sort of, I get that it's a nuance for many people, but that's really, really important in terms of transparency, that they're not going to the CEO, they're actually going to the board. The Future Fund Chief Executive, Raphael Arndt, said the issues raised are serious and need to be looked at. Too right, they're serious. Really? Serious and need to be looked at. Of course they are. If any investor needs to take corporate governance seriously, it is the Future Fund. Tim, you have a stake in that. Adam, you have a stake in that. I have a stake in that. This story has plenty to play out, but the whole idea of shareholder activism sparked by the Future Fund is really, really important to how markets operate. And the Future Fund isn't an activist investor. But this week they came and said, hey, this ain't good enough. We're going to, well, no, I shouldn't say that. They didn't say this isn't good enough. They simply said, we want to talk to the board about this. This could set off not just for Mineral Resources, but for other companies. I'm going to throw WiseTech Global into that. This could actually set up off activism over the next 12 months that will improve how markets function. I'm actually quite excited about this story. Whew, done. I want an immediate response from Tim, though.
Well, I think you pulled it back in the second half. I was beginning to wonder how you were going to justify it as a sleeper, and then we began. We began to sort of. I'm not much of I'm not at all a fisherman, so I might have my analogies wrong. But it feels like you threw your cast out, and then you started to pull the line back in.
Once I'd snagged the fish.
It was a very, very wide and dull net at first, though, wasn't it?
And we'll have to wait and see whether it's a minnow or a giant trout.
Yeah. Cast away, Adam. See how you go.
Land the whale. All right. Tim, the sleeper story for me this week isn't just the scandal over those flight upgrades for politicians. It is the intensifying landscape of political positioning as we approach a federal election in this country. With unofficial campaigning already underway, both major parties are feeling the heat to address voters' top concerns. The cost of living, soaring property prices, spiralling costs in healthcare and aged care, and the challenge of low productivity. There is also, of course, Tim, as you would expect me to say, a serious need for tax reform, a topic that politicians often avoid, but one that voters, well, this voter in particular, are increasingly demanding solutions for. Now, interestingly, one of the rare bipartisan areas to gain broad support this week is the proposal to limit social media access to individuals 16 and older. Protecting young Australians aligns well with public sentiment and could serve...
Protest. Tim, Mr. Anti-Omnibus, Tim, tell me.
Yes.
We've got like flight upgrades. We've got political positioning. That's the second story. Unofficial campaigning. We're talking about property prices, I think, got to run in there. We've got healthcare in there. We've got aged care in there. We've got productivity in there. I think, what was this last one that you started talking about? The social media ban?
Just onto social media.
Yeah. 8.
So the question is Adam about to bring them all together with one single thread, and we just need to hear him wrap up? So let's see where he can do it. But I do hear what you're saying, Sean.
Let's tantalise.
Go on, Adam. Keep going.
Protecting young Australians aligns well with public sentiment and could serve as a less contentious rallying point, but the big battlegrounds will be around economic policies as voters push for real, lasting...
We've got eight things before he says the big battldground.
It's important to give context, I think, Sean. The lasting solution to those everyday pressures, Tim, last time you were on, I called it cost of living, but Cozzy lives, Tim. This is what it's all about. Cozzy lives. This year and this week, we've seen pressure on incumbent governments worldwide to prove their mettle on the cost of living. There seems to be an anti-incumbent sentiment in the air, and Australians will be scrutinising each party's plans to tackle these core hip pocket issues. The federal election may be months away, but these simmering pressures of free upgrades and economic credibility on an incumbent Albanese government make this story a true sleeper, likely to shape the 6 months ahead. Judge Tim, over to you.
Adam, sadly, you've made this one quite easy for me, I think.
Sadly.
I cannot
Sadly for me, you mean?
Sadly for you, because I cannot point to the part of your answer where you identified the thing where the fuse was lit this week. Even if we argue about the flights, that was the week before, I believe.
All right. Well, I'll take that as constructive criticism, Tim.
No,
well,
Adam.
That's what I like about you and the feedback you receive.
Yeah, just whack him, would you? Don't kowtow to him being nice to you. Tell him what you think. 9 stories in one go, an omnibus. What did you bring home? Nothing but verbosity. That's what Tim's trying to say.
Yeah, look, I suppose we all have our different styles of saying these things, don't we? So yes, I am indeed giving Sean this one, and quite narrowly. So I think it's still all to play for with one more round to go for.
What can I just say that's appalling effort there, Tim, because you absolutely whacked Adam and said, mate, there was nothing in that, right? And yet, when I asked for commentary after mine, you said, oh, yeah, you brought that home. You really reeled the fish in. Yet, just like Adam does when he's judged, you've gone 22-23 or 24-23 or whatever your scoring is, right? Have some courage, mate. Actually give some points to someone and drop others.
Do you know, this is good. This is better sledging.
This is trying.
That's whether it's the winning sledge, I'm not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see. But it's improved sledging.
Shall we get on to our favourite story?
All right. Shall I go first, Sean?
Please do.
All righty. Tim, reform might be in the air. That's my favourite story this week. And it comes in the guise of Treasury.
Might be. Yeah, excellent stuff.
Well, listen to this. My favourite story this week is Treasury Secretary Stephen Kennedy's refreshingly straightforward approach to housing affordability. In a Senate hearing, Kennedy made it clear that if we want to make housing more affordable for Australians, we need to stop fixating on tax tweaks and start focusing on supply. When he was questioned about cutting capital gains tax breaks or reining in negative gearing, he acknowledged, quote, they're an area of interest, but ultimately they're not the solution to the housing crisis. Kennedy argued that housing affordability isn't a one policy fix and that tax reforms should be considered within the broader economic context. The core issue is increasing housing supply, which requires governments to finally be strong and coordinate across the three levels of federal, state and local council to make real estate accessible. Without it, we're just dancing around the real problem while Australians struggle to afford a home. Treasury has been modelling these reforms for years, but the path forward is clear. We need more homes, not just more talk. Kennedy's message amongst all of that talk is practical, grounded and long overdue, and that is why it's my favourite story of the week. Sean.
What part of that story was this week, apart from Stephen Kennedy talking? Is that stuff we've known for months? Anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't want to comment on Adam's story, so I won't. Right, my story. I love the follow the money story. The Tom Cruise. What was in that movie?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Okay, so this is the show me the money yarn. It was absolute cracker this week. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, certainly of this generation, but of all time, he's cutting his stake in Apple as part of a selling spree that's seen his Berkshire Hathaway dump about $166 billion worth of the stock over the past couple of years. What's that? 270 million Aussie. It's kind of like dumping Commonwealth Bank and ANZ together. Just that much money. Buffett's now ditched almost 2/3 of what he owned in Apple, which at its peak accounted for about $178 billion worth of the company's stock portfolio. The stock sales are a real shift by Buffett. A couple of years ago, he described Apple as one of the four giants of Berkshire's holdings, but he is dumping it. It comes as Apple has all sorts of regulatory challenges. It's facing regulatory pressure on its App Store. There's also been a recent US antitrust victory against Google that threatens to cut billions of dollars in licensing revenues that Apple makes from Google, from the search group. To round things out, this week, Apple lost the title of top dog on Wall Street to NVIDIA. Now, we're not an investing podcast. We're not saying go and buy or sell Apple shares or anything like that. Get your own advice. But this week, the great follow the money story is Apple. Regulatory issues, Buffett dumping it, losing its top spot. Over to you, Tim.
Gosh, I am going to give that one very straightforwardly to Sean. I liked your arguments, Adam, and I am interested in the topic of housing affordability. But
it's boring, wasn't it?
Well, it was boring. I hear the point that Sean makes around how much of that was really of this week, other than the commentary. So
the sledge worked.
The sledge did work, but remember there is that one extra point available on the sledging. So I've got Sean having won by 3 rounds to 1.
Yeah,
and then the points are quite close. So I'm going to give the best sledge to Adam though. Just felt very dry during Sleeper when he just kind of interceded with Good Start, and then Sean completely lost his thread.
Totally.
That's the nature of a good sledge, I think, is when you put your opponent off the stride. But it didn't actually make a difference to the outcome, though. So our winner is Sean.
Well done, Sean.
Thank you. And I think you are a wonderful judge, Tim. You truly are. I would like to concede that is an excellent point win by Adam, because who actually stopped the show? Adam saying something nasty.
Very uncomfortable with it. Anyway, I'm glad it worked.
Come on. So do the sign-off. Well, I'll do the sign-off, Adam. You were too flummoxed by the whole thing. That is the weekend edition from Fear and Greed. Tim, you have been one of the truly great judges. Thank you very much for being part of it.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Oh, lovely. Adam, big effort.
Thank you, Sean.
Really good effort. Really nice try.
Oh, God, that's being damned with faint praise, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. I'm Sean Aylmer, and that was Fear and Greed Business News. Have a great weekend.